Okay. Hello. Welcome everybody.
Hello.
Um Today I have with me Orange. She's a French animator. Uh Orange, do you think you could introduce yourself? Talk
Okay,
about like the
sure.
studio you work at and kind of what you do in the animation industry.
Yes. So, I'm Orange. Uh, I'm mostly a special effects animator. I also do character animation sometimes and also background layout. I'm French, so excuse my accent.
Hmm.
uh, just correct me if I say something weird.
Okay.
And yeah, I work sometimes for France, but I do a lot of freelance for overseas. And I do work as freelance animator for Japan from time to time. I worked on the first time I worked in Japan was an internship at Satellite Studios, but then I went there to Yapicos and I'd worked as freelance for different anime series. But that's not my main job. Mainly, I do freelancing for uh, commercials, TV series, anything really for any countries in the world. Oh, my voice is too low, I
Yeah,
think.
I fixed it, I think.
Is it better in chat? Ah,
They're asking where they could see your work. Orange sometimes posts work on her Twitter.
yeah, I do have a Twitter. I don't use it much, but there's no much not much to show anyway. So maybe on Twitter and except that there's not much to see. Maybe my demo reel. Also, yeah. Thanks for the link. I guess this is the best you can find.
Okay. I increased the audio again.
Scream,
Is it
please.
is it better now?
I will try to scream. Okay, but I can't scream for 2 hours, dude. Still a bit low. My mic is
Yeah,
my
here.
mic so bad?
I think maybe I just need to boost Discord a lot. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. There we go.
I usually use that mic for my meetings, so it should be fine. I hope
Okay.
better. Okay, that's good to hear.
Okay. Cool. So did you guys miss the entire introduction?
Yeah, if you need, I can always repeat, but as you want.
Yeah, I guess just maybe it'd be good to go ahead and repeat because I think they were saying they couldn't even hear you at the beginning. Sorry.
Okay. Oh no, it's perfectly fine. I'll just go quickly. I'm mostly a special effects animator, and I'm French, so I do work for French studios, but I also work for Japanese anime from time to time. I did work in Japan for a short time too. I also work for many other studios as freelance, any country really, any kind of projects, commercials, TV series, feature films, uh, TV spots. Yeah, just anyone that needs some help. And I do mostly special effects, but also do character animation and background layout from time to time.
Did you go to school for animation or did you just learn on your own?
I did uh, go to an animation school. Uh, I started doing art degree, and then little by little, I specialized and went to more specific schools for animation. And I studied at Gobelin in France, in Paris, for 4 years.
Oh wow. Yeah, the that's like probably the best animation school I feel like to go to.
It's quite famous. It I guess it is a good school. Uh, there are many good school other animation good animation schools. they all have their plus and minuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
The animation workshop is getting very famous too. It's also in Europe. There's CalArts that's also very
Yeah, Cal
famous.
Arts.
Sheridan in Canada. So nowadays there are more schools starting to pop up around the world, and that's great.
Yeah, that's really good. What's kind of unfortunate though is that like a lot of the schools don't teach hand drawn or 2D like frame by frame animation. They'll
Ah,
just teach the
mostly puppet, maybe.
puppet rigging
Yeah,
and stuff.
I see. Yes, I think even though we do produce also a lot of puppet animation in France, we still have in French animation schools, we still try to really teach traditional animation.
Mm-hmm.
I think because most students are really looking for it, right? And
Yeah,
we do have an artistic culture that's very important, very present in our European culture, right? So,
yeah. I'm really curious what they kind of teach because I know from when I've talked to you before, you said that there's not really a like in Japan they would teach probably the pipeline and they'd probably just teach you how to work within anime. But I feel like at the French schools they won't teach you pipeline stuff. They just teach you just like the first principles animation, and then it
yes,
can
it's a
translate.
correct. Yeah.
And
I guess it also very depends on the school. Some schools, if I only speak about France, right? Some are very very technical.
mm,
Gobelin is known to be quite technical. Um, L'Atelier, which is another animation school in France, is very technical too. Some other schools are focused more on directing, like MK and La Poudrière.
mm,
I mean, for example, La Poudrière is a school that you can attend only if you have either gone through an animation degree already or have already animation experience, and it's only uh, to teach you directing, but
wow.
really like looking for voice actors. How does production work? Like work as a producer, just a little bit at least, this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bit of everything, but it for Gobelin at least, um, we do go over all the steps of the pipeline because even though it's called animation school, but the degree is char- character animation and direction degree.
Mm,
So you're supposed to know a bit of everything and be capable of directing your own movie. Of course, it's quite rare to direct right off the
yeah.
bat when you go out of school. It still happens pretty often because many students who go to Gobelin are already very experienced, are very good artists, and they they can they have the shoulders uh, to live like a whole movie production by themselves with a team, of course. So
Mm,
even though we don't really speak about pipeline specifics of the order of things you need to do or very, very, pipeline things,
yeah.
we still, since we go over every step of the line, uh, that's how we get good at what we do. Is that as an animator, you're only as good as how well you understand how the storyboard works and the in betweener works, right? You need to know what's come before and what comes after to do your job properly.
Yeah.
So
So
that's how you could say we still understand a bit of the pipeline because we go over a bit of everything,
what are
but just
the
lightly, right?
what are the storyboards like for French productions? Are they really rough like Japanese, or are they really cleaned up and almost animated like Western storyboards?
Um, it would depend on the productions, of course.
Yeah.
More and more, the storyboards are pushed more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it comes from many different reasons, but I guess that in France too, we're really pushing the storyboards to be more and more accurate. And I believe the storyboarders kind of complain about it
Hmm.
from time to time because they
It's a lot
end
of
up
work.
doing four jobs. What
Yeah.
used to be four different jobs, meaning
Wow.
storyboarding is about deciding the framing, what's narratively relevant, just
Hmm.
drawing the cuts, right? But now the role of a storyboard artist is to deliver something that's up to layout level with a accurate perspective. Sometimes, or most of the time, the characters need to be on model,
Wow.
or there are a lot of posing, so it's almost like key animation. It's not as pushed as key animation, but it's
Hmm.
getting close to it, right? And they also need to time it,
Oh
so they
wow.
like as if they do their own animatic, right? So it becomes four jobs in one. It's storyboarding, it's animatic, editing, which used to be a separate job too. Sometimes it still is, but yeah, storyboard artists are expected to do sometimes their own timing,
Or
character animator, and layout artist. So four jobs in one.
wow. Are they considered like the director, or are they just a
No,
storyboard artist? Really? Okay.
still storyboard artist. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, and um, it's interesting because it has comes for different reasons. I guess also for budget reasons.
Hmm.
Because when you even if you pay a storyboarder very well, I don't think you're paying him like for salaries, right?
Yeah.
you you might be paying him the double of salary, but not the quadruple of salary.
Yeah.
So that comes with an issue. Um, Also, it has a lot to do, but this is more about the American side of it. So it has a lot to do with sending the work overseas,
Hmm.
and that's not really from my experience, but what I heard from my teachers who explained it to me is like when you're directing a series and making all the storyboard, and you need to send it to other studio overseas, mostly Asia,
Yeah.
because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
They need to have the storyboard so clear they can't screw it up.
Yeah. That
And
makes sense.
this is where it comes from actually. It's because since that other company, uh, the communication may be difficult, time zones are different, language is a barrier, and maybe they don't have the same way to work, or not the same abilities, so,
Yeah.
or there's lack of trust, I guess. It
Uh,
can also happen. They need to make the storyboard very very clear to avoid having to retake or
yeah.
redraw or ask for things because it doesn't work out too well. And this is not because Asian studios wouldn't be able to do it well, but there is a reason they're being paid cheap, right?
Yeah.
So if if the pay is cheap, they don't have the time or the energy or even the will to do it better, right?
Yeah.
So there's reason for everything. I
Yeah.
guess this is one of the reasons to push the storyboards to be like that.
Yeah, that's kind of funny because I remember I remember seeing a documentary about the production of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and
Mm.
they brought a film crew over to Studio Mir, and the animators, like, the apparently the storyboards for Avatar: The Last Airbender were really rough, and then the 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 workers at Studio Mir were confused. Like, they were like, we don't know what to animate because they're like,
Yeah,
what do
and
they
this is
want? And then they
yeah, it's very interesting because it's not because they wouldn't be able to do it. It's
yeah.
just different pipeline, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So one thing I'm kind of curious about. So, you spent some time in Japan. Um,
Yes.
what was that experience like? Like, was it like shocking to see how different things were for like animation? And then, like, also, was it like, did you like living there generally as well?
Yes, I really much enjoyed my time in Tokyo. Actually, I went there twice because first time was for an internship and I was an intern at Satellite as a background layout artist.
Oh wow.
And this was my very first time going to Japan and working for Japanese productions. It was like summer internship for two months, and I joined Satellites because there was what we called then the France team because it was only French guys or
Mm-hmm.
mostly French artists. So that's how I got there, right? And it was maybe the most famous name from them is Thomas Romain. He
Mm-hmm.
was not the only one, but he was, I guess, the boss of the team, the main
Mm-hmm.
supervisor. And that team would only do background layout, sometimes assist with background designs, I guess. And this is how I really learned, how Japanese animation works. And
Yeah.
this is what gave me the taste to try and go back
Mm-hmm.
to Japan later. Once I graduated, I went back, not in the same company, but still for French artists working in Japan. The studio was Yapiko. I don't know if it's still going, maybe. And it was pretty much the same, meaning it was mostly French guys
Mm-hmm.
working, like having their own studio in Tokyo, but still working completely for, like, mostly for Japanese productions. And there again, I was mostly background artist, layout
Interesting.
background art, and I was member of a team
Mm-hmm.
of background artists. I did still do some animation. I could still observe how it would work outside of a background team. But yeah, it was
So
nice.
I actually didn't know. I don't know how I didn't know this, but I didn't know that there was a separate position for background layout artist.
Yeah, because it's not true. It was a lie.
Oh,
But
really?
no, it's not. No, it's not a lie. What I mean is, it's funny because I did my internship at Satellite, and I worked for 2 months. And what our job was, we would receive the animator's layout,
Yeah.
so the Ichigen or layout as they call it for English speakers, and usually the background is,
Really rough.
non-existent
Yeah. Just like
or extremely
a
rough.
cotton
Yes.
ball for a tree,
Yes,
and
exactly.
yeah,
You can. There is some intent sometimes, but it's too little to give to
the
the
painter.
color
Yeah.
background. Yes, the painter, the beige painter. So what the team would do is only draw the line art for the background.
Yeah.
Usually, it was also very complex designs. Very like we would only take the cuts that really were asking for a lot of work
Mm-hmm.
in terms of background, lots of building, cityscapes, or very complex background for anything really. And then when we're done, this is what will be sent to the
The painters.
painters
Yeah.
and color background studio. So I did that for 2 months, and at the end, I I dare ask to Thomas, by the way, to Thomas Romain, and I was wondering, so is it possible to apply as background layout artists in other studios, and how is the pay and all that?
Mm-hmm.
And he said quite frankly, "Oh no, this job doesn't exist anymore." Actually,
Wow.
I was like,
Yeah.
"Whoa!"
I.
It used to
It sounds.
exist,
It sounds cool
but
though. Like that
yeah,
sounds like
I
it'd
I
be
love
really
it.
helpful.
Mhm,
Cause
mhm. It is
I've
very
noticed that
helpful.
recently, especially in anime, the backgrounds have really tanked in quality, and
Mm,
it looks like even in like big studios, like even I don't know if you've watched any of Studio Bones productions recently, but all their backgrounds are just pasted in textures for the most part,
yes, exactly,
and
because
they used to
the
have like
painters are
beautiful
still
painted
doing a good work,
backgrounds.
but
Yeah.
there's so little constructions behind it by like lack of time, of course.
Yeah. Maybe they decided it's just not worth it for some reason, but I think it's
Mm,
definitely worth it because a lot of times the painters aren't going to be very good at drawing, but they're going to be really good at rendering. So if you give them a really strong drawing, then they can make it look beautiful. But
exactly.
yeah.
Yes, that's what the layout and drawing background layout was a real job, or at least that's what I heard. So it does tend to disappear little by little, I guess, because anime is so rushed now
Mm-hmm.
that they have to jump over some steps, and this is a step that got eaten by the pipeline or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a shame because I enjoy it because it's really really helpful for the color, like for the painters,
Mm-hmm.
and it's narratively very important to
Yeah.
get a good, good, at least a good depiction of space to understand where you're at
Yeah.
and all that. It doesn't have to be every cut. Like most simple cuts, you can just leave it to the layout artist, like the animator, and it's fine. Even if he doesn't draw much, the painter he can figure it out. But I had like painters as friends back there in Japan, the French ones, and even French working in other full Japanese studios, and they were all saying like sometimes they receive something and they can't do anything out of it. They
Mm-hmm.
have to redraw it completely.
Yeah.
So the difference in work and time between starting from nothing and just having to paint over a line art that's already
Yeah.
correct, it's
It's
huge.
huge.
It's a huge
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, because you're having to create everything and
Yes.
invent it, and then
And you
yeah,
can really take the time to focus on what you need to focus on, like the colors,
the
the lighting,
lighting.
the
Yeah.
rendering. This is already so much work.
Yeah. And then yeah,
Mm.
telling them they have to design billboards and
Yeah.
like signs on windows and
And yes, it does layout.
trash.
Exactly. Layout does include some part of design.
Yeah.
And so since you need to draw like new environments or new angles that has never been seen before in the anime, you also need to design sometime.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
yeah.
think I think a lot of studios are just moving to photographs and then painting over them.
Yes. Yes, they have specific with magazines with only photographic references.
Yeah.
They use that a lot.
Yeah, I think there was a few cuts I did on Zombieland saga where they I think they just took a photography crew into a school and then they just took pictures. And they're like, this is the
Mhm.
layout for this cut.
Yes, I know. Was it Kawamori? I don't remember the name, but the main director at Satellite, he would go to different places to take a lot of photographs, and as for designing, just like designing the place for the series or the feature film, he would ask the artist to draw over it, but
Mm-hmm.
also to correct some different things, some details, or
Yeah.
just interpret it and add its own touch. But still, it was heavily based on the photograph and drawn over it and recorrected to be more interesting design wise.
Yeah.
But this is a very common method.
Yeah, I think that's what they did for the backgrounds on Kimi no Nawa.
Yes,
For like
very
most of
likely.
them, like
Yes.
I think it would be impossible to make those from your imagination.
Mm, it's definitely possible, but it's
It'd take
it's
too long.
it's time consuming. Yeah, well, why
Yeah.
why not use it? It's faster. It's more efficient. It gives a good rendering. I mean, I'm all for cheating. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great.
Um, someone in chat's asking, is there a name for like when they paint over photographs?
If
Is
there
there?
is one, I don't know it.
Yeah, I don't know either. Uh,
Mm,
I would just assume it's like photo layout or something like that.
I
Um,
think it's just a technique, but
yeah.
whether they call it like whether they gave it a name, I'm not sure.
Andy in chat has a question for you. Do you think that in the effort to rush through production, they created more work in the end, or are they actually saving time?
I believe they are ultimately saving time.
Yeah.
It still heavily impacts on the quality, not only of the production, but on the quality of life of all the employees,
Yeah.
not just the
Everyone,
animators,
like all the
but
way through.
everyone on the
Yeah.
pipeline. Yeah, I guess that's also the reason they can produce more and more anime, or it's the other way around. It's because they wanted and or needed to produce more and more anime. They needed to find a way to save time at some point in the production. The disappearance of background layouts is just one example, but I'm sure it's not the only one. Even the process of animating, like the layout, Ichigan, the Nigen phase, it has completely evolved also through time. So, yeah.
Do you think it's changed since? So you were in Japan, like you said, it was 6 years ago, or?
Oh, it must have been 6 years ago for the internship.
Yeah. So do you think it's changed since then,
Oof.
or
I was really just in my French bubble doing my
the
layout,
backgrounds?
and
Yeah. So it's hard to tell.
that in a job that even didn't already exist, so I couldn't say.
So, something I'm curious about. What is it like just doing FX animation, like as a main job?
You mean what
Like,
is the what is the word?
what is it like?
Uh,
Like what do you
what do
like?
I
What do you
do?
do? Yeah. Are you just
Um,
drawing over
it
videos,
dep
or?
yeah, it depends. It depends on the project again. For mostly for Western, I could say it's a job that's only relevant for Western pipelines
Mm.
because Japanese animation, and that's also why I do Japan anime work
So,
from time to time. There's no no separation between FX and characters. You are given a cut, and when you are given a cut, you do everything in the cut. Whether it's FX with characters, whether it's only characters, whether it's only FX, you do everything. But
would a good example be like Into the Spider-Verse?
yeah,
Like they
in the
had some,
Spider-Verse,
they had
it was a
2D
specific
on top.
team, I guess. Yeah, I think it was Alex Redfish, but I'm not sure. There's a specific team of FX animators that designed and animated those effects. And I believe for this specific project, it was used as how do you say, like a data bank and re-implemented in the 3D. So they have a very specific way to work with the 2D effects. They were animated in 2D and then integrated in the 3D environment. But yes, exactly. In Western, animating effects is usually a separate job for distinct animators because it requires a craftsmanship that's quite different from the one you need for character animation. So when I'm given like the FX role, I would animate effects and only effects, nothing else. So
And
usually I'm already given a cut that's started or already done, and I do the effects over it, but not always.
what do you think is like the most common effect that you do? Is explosions?
I wish, but no.
Smoke?
The most common effects would be yes, smoke and dust and water. I mean, usually
Like
we're on Earth, so
splashing
it's
water,
not
or
a
just
water.
any
Oh
water?
god, I animated so many reflections, dude.
Oh
So
wow.
many reflections. It's so boring. Now, there are definitions of what effect is. No, I think mostly it was Joseph Chilon that gave that description. I think is that anything that is not moved by a skeleton counts as an effect. And whatever moves with a skeleton should be given to a character animator, even if it's an animal. But yeah,
Interesting.
when it's not skeleton, it's considered effects.
Yeah, I think I
This
remember
is the
you.
theory, right?
I think I
But
remember you working on a cut once that was like a bowl of soup, and I think that was
yeah,
considered
oh
an
my
effect.
God. My friends still make fun of me because I'm the soup animator. Because I've had so many projects where I animated soup, and you would think like this can't be that common, right? But it is. It really is. But well, no, the
Would
thing
like
is,
chopping vegetables be
mm,
an effect?
that yes, that would probably be. Uh, it depends. That's where we go into props. Would props be considered an effect?
Hmm.
I my view on that is when there is an interaction with the character and the character is really heavily manipulating the object or the effects, and you need the effects to do your acting properly, it should be left to the character animator because he can't animate his cut properly if he
Yeah.
doesn't animate the effect,
Yeah.
right? If he needs help afterwards, yes, of course there can be an effects
Yeah.
animator path
You can have like
over it.
juice spraying off of it or something.
Yes, for example.
Yeah.
And I believe they would do like this for Hades on Hercules film from Disney. You know, he has fire on his head,
Hmm.
and the character animator would animate the guy, but the fire on his head is animated with the acting,
Well,
like depending
you
on
said
how
Hades.
Hades,
Yeah.
yes. No, from the Disney
Yeah, from
film,
the Disney movie.
Hercules.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. So since he has fire on his head, but the fire is reacting to his acting. So the character animators, they have to put at least some rough animation or what their intentions are. But
Hmm.
then I believe effects animators would go over it or help with that
Yeah, that would make
if
sense.
needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in in truth, what usually happen is like the characters they do like the character animator, they do their cut, they animate whatever they please, and whatever they don't want to animate, it's for FX department. That's the truth. That's
Hmm.
what happens. So the character has a glass or yeah, he's banging on the table and everything on the table like
As they
gets thrown
bounce.
away or
Yeah.
something like that, or he pushes everything on the table. Like he's interacting with the objects, right? But no, that's for the effects animator.
Well.
That's not because they can't animate it. That's because they don't want to animate it, right? So it's most of the time it's more like that.
Um. Was there any projects you worked on recently that you're allowed to talk about that you really enjoyed working on?
Hmm. I really enjoyed working on Arcane, but I'm not sure I can talk much about it. The thing is, it was like 1 year production, so I have to think more than 1 year back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did work on on Jujutsu Kaisen, which was very nice.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
This I
Yeah.
guess I can talk about. What I like with Japanese animation is the fact they don't separate character and effects.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get tired of only animating effects, I can do some anime work, and then I can animate the characters too. I still take cuts that usually have some sort of effects because I'm more comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, it's still nice, but it will always be a hobby, all right? At
Yeah.
least for now,
Yeah.
because it pays less than a hobby, so it can't be more. Not yet.
Yeah.
Uh, Hopefully it will
I think
change.
it's possible to make good money in anime, but
Yes,
you have to be really high up in
that's right.
like a full time salaried
Mm-hmm.
position or something.
Yes, with a contract or semi or full contract. Like at
Yeah.
my current capacities and pace, I I can't do it.
Mm.
Uh, but maybe in the future, when if I feel like I can assume it, I will try.
Yeah. The hard part is being able to pay bills.
Yeah,
So I found that like when I was first starting to do anime work, I was like the only way I could do anime work is if my monthly bills are less than $300 a month. Uh,
Mm,
so I made that happen, and I was able to get things going. Um,
yeah.
but I found ways to make more money since then. So I'm not. But when I was first starting, I had four roommates, and I was living in
Mhm.
a tiny room with no windows. So
Yeah, I can imagine.
yeah,
Well, I'm still always renting rooms and living with other people because renting is so expensive
yeah,
in cities. But it's really a matter of choice, life choices. Is you want to earn money to live a good life, but at the same time, your work is more than half your time, in
yeah,
truth.
yeah,
So you want to spend your work time doing projects you like. So
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
I wouldn't judge people who would really spend a lot of time working in anime, even if they don't earn so much. But
Yeah,
still, at least they're really working on like cool projects. And this is also something that I like with anime is that I'm sure that the cuts and the series and all it will always be cool, and I will always feel more motivated animating some fighting, like gods fighting between each others like
mm-hmm,
Fate, rather
yeah,
than animating soup for 6 months, right?
yeah. So is the soup like more in like the French productions, or is the soup
It
in Japanese?
was not only the French productions, but yes, it was for a French feature film. Um, I guess there's a very wide variety of productions in France, but they're usually more boring for me, purely out of taste, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
purely subjective, but yeah, I get a little bored after a while, so I like to change.
Um,
But the thing is, like, the pay, the Western pay is at least 10 times
yeah,
the anime pay. And it's pretty huge, right?
yeah.
Pretty
It's
huge
crazy. I
difference.
don't think it's gonna last much longer. The pay being
Mm.
so low, because it's starting to become a really mainstream story. Like everyone knows about it. I feel like.
Yes, but it also has to be to do with your life costs, your local life
Yeah,
costs. So when you like when you live in the US or in France and in
even
one of the main cities,
Japan.
of course it's extremely expensive.
Yeah,
But if you live in like lower cost countries, it's
yeah,
actually decent pay.
yeah. It is. Yeah, that's why there's
So
so many like Malaysians and Filipinos that work in the
yes,
anime industry because
exactly.
they can actually have
And
like a decent living
mhm,
situation and like provide for their family and everything. But
yes,
that's just because it's still cheap to live there.
yes. So that's and also just even just going to the countryside rather than living really in the city, it's already like
Yeah,
so much savings.
I worked a little. I lived outside of a major city for a little while, but the internet speed was so slow that it was really like it started to cause problems.
Mm, yeah,
Um,
there's that problem.
yeah,
But
you
there are
can't go
some
too far out.
countrysides you can
Yeah,
find still find good internet.
yeah,
But that or you can be in a big city and have awful internet like in Paris. So you never know.
yeah. For me, like upload speed is like really important. Like sometimes I remember I was because when you submit work as a freelancer, you're sending it through
Hmm.
the internet. It's like sometimes you're sending like a gig of drawings and
Wow, a gig?
a gigabyte.
You
Yeah.
do a lot.
Well, if it's like a
Maybe
whole
that's
pack of
because I
cuts or
don't do a
something,
lot of that.
maybe
Yeah, I
yeah.
guess. Yeah, yeah.
But there
You're
sometimes the
sending a lot.
uploads would take like two
Mhm.
hours, and then it would
Yes.
cancel out and stuff like that. So
Mm.
where I live now, I have a like fiber
Yeah,
internet. So
it's a real issue when you're sending huge files,
yeah.
or even when you're doing backgrounds and you have big Photoshop files. Yeah, it
Mm,
gets very big very fast.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um. Let's see. Avery's asking, are there things you've discovered that makes living as a freelance animator much easier?
Much easier compared to what?
I think just things that make freelance. I think an example would be like for me, I find it really important to have my office space outside of my bedroom.
Mm,
I think that's really
ah,
important.
I see. Well, I'm still in my bedroom, so I can't tell.
Maybe if you
Um,
had a separate space, you would work more. I don't
Maybe
know.
it would be better. But yeah, yeah, it's very likely. When bed is too close, it's too
Yeah, it's
tempting.
too comforting. It's like I could just sleep.
Yes. Um. As a freelance, mm, I guess I don't have to different
Like, how do you keep track of?
workflow in freelance as in when I'm working in house. But that's because I'm very uh, I stick to my habits a lot. So I have my work time. I know I always start working at the same time and
Oh yeah,
end
that's good.
working more or less at the same time. Or it makes not it doesn't make much difference for me between home and the studio except for cooking food and organizing myself for this kind of stuff. But yeah, except that, it's mostly the real difference would be when I start being freelance outside of like working overseas. The thing is, freelance doesn't necessarily mean I'm in house or working from home. I'm most of the time when I'm freelancing, I was actually working in house on a different studio, right?
Hmm. So like
So
a short kind of
yeah,
contract.
yes, or
Yeah.
just because as a foreigner to be able to work overseas, you need to be a freelancer, or they're more likely to hire a freelancer. It's easier hiring a freelancer to work, yeah, for a foreigner,
Yeah.
so they have less administrative stuff to do to hire you. So yeah, that's the reason.
Um, what do you do to like keep track of your deadlines and stuff? You just like
Uh,
write them down,
I
stick it on the wall, or
mm, usually I don't go over 3 jobs at one time.
hmm.
So 3 jobs is already ridiculous, right? There is day job, that's my main job. Then there is nighttime, weekend time job. And when there's a third one, it's because something screwed up, right?
Oh, okay.
Something went late
Yeah.
or
And then you
this kind of stuff.
do you lose
So
sleep in situations like that, or do you just lose all
mm,
your free time?
no. I lose all my free time,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll get what they deserve, but
Yeah.
they won't get my sleep.
Yeah, that's
This
what
they won't.
I try to. That's kind of what I do too. Is like I don't take on more work that like
Yeah,
it's so much work that makes me not sleep because if I can't sleep, then I don't work, and then I just drop everything.
exactly. And also, it is your responsibility to take the amount of work you can you can actually handle and
Mm-hmm.
still leave a certain margin of error. Not only your errors, because it's going to happen, but also yeah, like you get sick or you mismanage something, but also the studio's error, like getting late,
Yeah.
which they always are, especially for Japanese
Mm-hmm.
animation. So it is your responsibility to think that yeah, okay, I can take more because one, I can't handle it, but also there will be problems on the way, so I need to be careful with that. So yeah, that's why I always go like one main job, eventually a second job for nights and weekends. But I know this job is not more than 2 hours a day on weekdays and like 6 hours of work on weekends
Mm-hmm.
because I have that margin of error and
Mm-hmm.
never go over it and never sacrifice my sleep. Anyway, I would never sacrifice my sleep because I can't work if I'm not
Yeah.
sleeping properly. But that's me, right? Some people they can. I just can't, and I don't even bother to try.
Yeah. I
But
when I was in college, I would skip. I would. do like 4 hours of sleep a night, and then
Wow.
I would get these like really bad migraines, and then it put me out of commission for like
Yes,
2 days.
migraines. Mm.
I'd be like sick, and I'd have to sleep.
Yeah, it's usually doesn't really pay. Some I really leave it to extreme situations or when not even extreme situation, but when it's the very, very last day and I have my last cut to finish or
Yeah,
something.
and then you can
But also,
just pass out at the
yeah,
end.
yeah, that's right. And
Yeah.
also, uh, I I'm pretty lazy and I really know when to give up. So
Mm-hmm.
when I know, like, okay, I can't do it, I don't feel. Yeah, of course, I'll feel a little bad about it, but not too much. So I just send the whatever I have and say, okay, I can go over it. And this is extremely important. It's like at some point when you're really in a bad situation, even if it's your fault and you feel ashamed to admit it, you have to say, like, okay, I can't do more than that. Let's be honest. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
You warn the studios and tell, okay, I can't do more than that.
Yeah, that's a
Sometimes
mistake.
it's because it was ridiculous to start with, and it's very frequent.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a
Either
very
because it's your yeah, capabilities or because the studio was like too ambitious.
mm-hmm.
It's very common, so you just need to say it.
Yeah. I kind of had that problem. I still have that problem actually. I honestly take on way too much work sometimes, but it's definitely a big beginner mistake that people take on too much work that they. I don't take an impossible amount of work, but like there was one time I took 31 cuts in of Sakan
Mhm.
in 1 week,
Yeah.
and that was crazy. I was like 12 hours a day working nonstop.
Yes. I guess if it pushes you to work harder and get better, if it's a motivation on its own, you can always try. But uh, yeah, the problem is you're damaging not only yourself but the studio. So
Mm-hmm.
not always great.
I'm gonna answer a chat question real quick.
Yes.
Babu is asking, you said you'd like to separate your workplace from your bedroom. Is it because you're being in your comfort zone can make you lazy, or is there another reason? I have to separate my bed from my office location, because it's kind of like a mental thing. Like when I enter my office, I'm working. When I enter my bedroom, I'm sleeping. It's just like I don't know.
Mm.
It's kind of like a trick. Uh, um,
It's very true for artists where our hobbies is usually very close or the same as our work. So it can cause burnout to never leave that artistic, you know,
yeah,
activity. And I believe separating the spaces like that, it would help on that.
yeah. Every artist should have like a I feel like a studio. Like even if you can't split your office from your bedroom, at least like cut your room in half somehow. Be like, this is
Mm.
the half of my room where I work, and this is the half of my room where I don't work. But um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about something. I don't know if you want to answer this or not, but what's the is there a story behind your your name?
Orange?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's probably simple, isn't
It's not so much of a story, but everything I own pretty much is orange, so
it?
everyone knows it's me. When people know me, they see orange, they know it's me. Like I have my credits. I get credited as orange because I don't mind. So if my parents or anyone who knows me sees orange in the credits, they know it's me anyway. So no, it's just nothing much more to it.
Yeah. Yen's in chat. He's wondering if the directors get mad at you, do they slap you with a baguette?
With the croissant. Mm.
Oh
It's a
man,
good question.
I uh I lived in Louisiana for like a little while, and I had to learn a lot of French words because the
Oh
French
god.
settlers like came in Louisiana, and like all the they didn't have counties, they had parishes, which I don't know if that's a French thing, but um
Mm.
all the names, like I lived the county names and the city names are all French,
Oof.
and there was French speaking people there, but I'm pretty sure French people can't understand what they're saying.
Ah. Maybe. I
But it was
never
kind of
heard
cool.
like American French version. No, I don't get slapped with a baguette or croissant. But we often get croissant or pain au chocolat or brioche in the morning when someone's nice and bring food for everyone. You know, we like food in France, so
Hmm.
uh, no, not the baguette.
That's funny. Um, so I guess we could just move into Q&A. I think I covered everything that I kind of wanted to talk about with
Mhm.
you. Um, so yeah, let's just go ahead and move into Q&A. So chat, we're just gonna shift over to talking to you guys directly. For like, how much time do you have left, Orange? Like 30 minutes?
Yeah, it can be up to 1 hour, but not more,
Okay.
if needed.
Okay. So yeah, if you guys want to post questions in chat, we'll direct our attention over there and try to answer your guys' questions. Uh, Mr. Jerk is asking, how did you improve with effects? Copying warm ups, or do you need book recommendations?
Okay, so effects is I feel a category on its own. So the only way to get better at effects is doing effects. I don't really practice or do anything outside my work. This is very rare. Most artists, I guess, would at least draw something on the side. Um, it takes a lot of understanding the physics because
Mm-hmm.
since there is no skeleton and mostly there is no, acting, uh, it's uh, it's not whether you feel like it should be like that or what. It's more about how does it actually work,
Mm-hmm.
uh, how those law of physics apply to this specific gas or liquid. You don't need to be like a genius in physics and all that, of course. There's a lot of slow motion videos you can look at to help yourselves. There's a lot of materials online. There's a 2D effects blog, blogspot that's old, but it's still updated frequently. It's very good. There is 2D effects extravaganza that is also very good a source. But mostly when you do effects, it's very rare that you'd have designs done. When you do character animation, you're following a model sheet or a set tape. For effects, it's extremely rare that you'd have a model sheet or a design. It it can happen, but it's rare. So you need to design it yourself. And for that, you need either to be a very good designer, either to have a lot of a huge amount of reference. And this is how I do it. I have a lot of reference, and this is how I learned. Actually, it's by observing a lot
Mm-hmm.
of reference from Sakugaboru or from the websites I told you.
Um, I'm aware of like two effects books that are pretty good. I don't know if you know about
Mhm.
these, but there's one called Elemental Magic.
Yes,
Uh,
the Joseph Jean. Yes.
yeah, and then there's a Japanese one called Anime Effecto Sakuga, which is literally just a bunch of different effects: smoke, fire, water, and
Yes.
it provides timesheets and stuff too. So it's really
Yes.
cool.
There's also it's harder to find, but Toshiyuki Inoue published two special effects books past Christmas, I think. One for liquids and one for smoke and explosions. They're very good because Toshiyuki Inoue is very good at effects too. So they're good reference too, if you like books, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like books that really break down frame by frame.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what Toshiyuki Inoue one does.
um, Said we is asking, did you draw before you started animating?
Yes, I'm one of these artists that never stopped drawing. I would draw a lot on the walls when I was young. I learned to draw somewhere else than the walls, but that's pretty much the only thing that changed, and that's all. I never stopped. But it's common story, but it's not the only way.
Yeah.
I had colleagues at Gobelin, my classmates. They started drawing or getting into drawing uh, only a few years before getting into Gobelin, and they would draw very well. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Animation and drawing are not the same, but so you can learn and get and become pretty good at motion without
Yeah.
having a lot of drawing like draftsmanship, but there is a there is a point you can't go further if you don't have drawing skills,
Yeah.
at least as soon as you want to get into more realistic animations.
Yeah. I do think that so I have a kind of similar story. Like I started drawing when I was like a little kid, and I would just like copy pictures of lions and stuff out of like National Geographic magazines and stuff, or I'd like take book covers and draw them. But definitely, I think with animation, you can get better at drawing by doing animation. So,
Yes.
um,
I think you learn a lot about drawing from animation when you're actually animating. Model sheets are aren't your own. So when you're animating and practicing like drawing a design that is not yours, you're actually teaching yourself to draw differently. And this is a huge, huge improvement, and a very good way to improve is to practice drawing other model sheets, because
mm-hmm.
you really learn different ways and like different aspects of drawing by observing like different styles. So you that's why like many animators they get very very good draftsmanship. I think it's also because they've manipulated so many different designs. You learn a lot from it.
Mm-hmm. Um, okay. I don't know if I'm gonna get it through every question, so I'm just gonna pick some. Uh, Yin's asking Orange, what do you think about Japanese contract work and amount they pay? Do you think it's considerably good and fair compared to Western work? Like in the amount of work and compared to money?
Um, I don't have the exact amount that a Japanese contract would pay you, but to compete with Western pay, it would have to go close to 3,000 euros per month,
Yeah, I think.
which is pretty high. The thing is, it's hard to compare because there are taxes that are very different from country to country. So I think it's very unlikely it will get to the same level as Western pay unless you become really a star animator and get really really good.
Mm-hmm. I've
It's
heard
possible, I guess.
numbers as high as 120 or like 120 USD per cut would be like contract pay. That's as high as I've
120.
heard of. Yeah, so like 120,000 yen, about no 100 no
uh
12,000 yen
12,000 yen per month,
per
you mean?
cut per cut.
Per cut. It would entirely depend on how long you would take for the work. For the thing is also Western pay is usually by time spent, so
Mm.
daily rates or hourly
I've
rates. So it depends on your speed.
I've also heard per second is something that Western rates
Yes,
can do.
I think too. Maybe in Canada. And for animated series, maybe yes. I've never seen it, but I've heard of it.
Mm-hmm. Shanks is asking, can Webgen artists and animators sustain themselves without a second job?
Um,
Depends on where you live.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It depends where you live, and If you're living like Europe or US, unless you're very, very fast and live on the countryside, no. For me,
Yeah.
it's unthinkable, for
Hmm.
example. I would never get fast
Yeah.
enough to
I
live from it.
I think I've done it in the United States. It's possible, but you have to get your rent really low. Like I had to move out into the middle of basically nowhere in Louisiana. Um, but
Yeah.
my income is not fully from Japanese productions. So we do like at Tonari, we do
Mhm.
a lot of independent productions, and those help fill the gap in my income. If I was just doing anime, I would not be surviving.
Mm. It's the most common thing I hear. Like Westerners, people not working like not living in Asia or cheaper life costs countries. They would always have two jobs or like go from Western work to anime work, but they would always have a bit of both because they need one for the income and the other one like for the passion, I guess. But there are also projects, Western projects that are very anime-like or very interesting too. Like it's not just working for Western project out of need.
Yeah.
It's just different, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
The
I
pipeline is also different, so it depends on what pipeline you prefer.
Yeah, with Tonari, what we're trying to do is we're trying to just have good quality, and then hopefully we can request more rates or higher rates, and then we're also trying to get into like longer term contracts so that we can increase the pay. Because I know if you dedicate a certain amount of months to working for a studio, then they'll increase the pay. Uh, for example, uh,
I guess it's I've always jumped from studio to studio. I've heard that, but at the same time, what I hear a lot, at least in France, is that when you get like more experienced and like you get, for example, very, very experienced, like senior level,
mm-hmm,
the pay difference is not that huge
mm-hmm.
uh, compared to like
Like
what your experience should
about
give.
double. Do you think that's about
Not
right?
even.
Not even
No,
double.
not even double. So I
Yeah,
don't know if it's for France specifically or what, but
yeah. I think it's like
in our job, it's not seniority. It doesn't give you that much of an advantage. I guess it's really about your abilities. Like if you're very, very fast or very, very good, then yeah, you'll get paid better because
yeah.
you're worth more.
I remember talking to Remy about this a bit,
Mm,
and his theory is that just no one's negotiating for higher pay.
yes, it's true. It's also true.
Yeah, because everyone's just like wants to work on anime, and they're like, "Oh, this is cool that I'm working on anime. I don't care how much I get paid."
It's probably even truer with anime work. It's
Yeah,
already quite true among animators
yeah.
and artists
I
overall.
I would say that it's unsustainable, but it probably is because there's always a new crop of people that are like excited to work on anime for the first time for nothing. So
The thing is, the studio is still paying the difference. Like they're paying cheaper for that guy, but it will be more expensive because they have to spend more time correcting
yeah,
it
that's
or
true.
stuff like that. So in the end, they'll have to realize that it's not really cheaper in the
Hmm.
end.
Gilded guy's asking what's our definition of webgen. In the context of that earlier guy's question, it just means like this new wave of animators that spawned from Twitter that are like overseas anime people.
It used to refer to animators, even Japanese animators. It goes way back, like Japanese animators that were young enough to have started animating on digital media and would be comfortable with, Flash or any softwares
Mm,
that you can just press enter and see the animation, which would naturally push to a different kind of animation, and this is what was referred as webgens. it's those younger animators back then that
Mm-hmm.
were already working and were more comfortable with digital media, which made their animation style a bit different, be more dynamic, playing more with camera, all this kind of stuff. Now, I guess you could say anyone today would be some sort of webgen, but it's not exactly the same, I think.
Mm-hmm. Um, I am is asking, what is the most fun part in making animation for you?
Oh, I like finishing the animation more than the start. I'm one of those
Mm.
rare people who don't like, the creative process that much. Uh, I like drawing, and I like
Yeah.
drawing well, and I don't like the time I spent looking for an idea and looking like searching for what I need to do. And this is also why I like FX more. It's like since it's more physics heavy, it's not so much about deciding, it's not so much about um, acting and sensibilities. It's more rational, and it's easier for me
Hmm.
to get to the like very technical part and just perform it properly. And
That's
this is
a
the part I like.
that's
So I would
a
like more Gengas and layout, for example.
yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I never thought of effects that way. That's a really cool way to look at it. Like I might
Mm,
that makes me want to try some more effects and just like think of it as
yeah.
like a rational problem to solve.
Yes,
So
it's not the absolute truth for effects. Of course, you can have
yeah.
very sensitive with effects and have very a more artistic, creative approach, and not too anchored in following the rules and realism. But I like it. I enjoy
Mm-hmm.
that part of effects, right?
My favorite part of animating is just doing like not even the animation part. I just like whenever the characters are really close to the camera and I get to like draw the characters in detail,
Mm,
like doing the
yes,
eye details and stuff like that.
yes. And I guess when it's more rational, like you have a model sheet to follow and you're either close to it or not, it's
Mm.
easier for me to judge whether
Mm.
I'm doing well or not. And
Yeah.
this is much more reassuring for me. That's why. Maybe it's because I'm still unsure of myself and not appreciating my own work. But I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm. Um, let's see. Beakrant's asking, how does one get a job as a freelancer? How to get noticed by studios?
Okay. Um, Nowadays, it's very easy to share your work online, having not necessarily a Twitter, but any website where you can show your work. Um, I wouldn't advise starting as a freelancer, meaning as a remote freelancer, because you don't get to learn how it works. So I would always advise to start in-house whenever that's possible to learn the craft, learn how it works within the studio and not just your part of the job. And also that's how you get contacts. And when you've
Mm-hmm.
started to get contacts and building your network, naturally you'll get more easily contacted. You can still go the full digital route and have your website or whatever you post your work get very famous, get lots of retweets, and people will notice. Usually we share a demo reel. That's the most common way to share to show our level, at least in Europe. Not so much in Japan, but well,
Mm-hmm.
yes, that's the way to do it.
I've seen Green ask this question quite a few times. He's basically asking, why be an animator and not something that pays better, like a doctor?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's all about whether you enjoy what you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because yes, both my parents are doctors, so yeah, I could have gone that way. Um, but I enjoy drawing, and as long as I enjoy what I do, naturally I'll get better at it, and this skill will be useful for someone, and someone will pay me. So I just go little by little like that. Just as long as I enjoy what I'm doing, I keep going this way, and uh, I'm happy with it, with the
Yeah.
amount of money it gives me and all that.
For me, I just kind of thought about what I would regret not doing the most. And I know that for a fact that if I didn't pursue an animation career, I would regret it when I was older. So,
Mm.
just because I've always had like this desire to make movies, I would like watch movies and
Yes,
just be like, I want to make that. Like, I want to learn how to make that, and I want to make it.
you're more of an artist than I am. Yes, that's great.
Yeah, I don't.
I think it's always better. You should always have some, at least some will of or some taste for creation and giving something personal. If you're in any kind of artistic job, I just get away with being effects animators because no one wants to do my job. So I
Yeah,
still get paid and I still get contacted. But because there's so few 2D effects animators that they have no choice but to come and contact us.
yeah,
So I'm fine with it. But
yeah. You're
yeah,
like
I think it's
specialized on
really
top of a specialty. So like,
yes, exactly. Yes, and yeah, so yeah, when you're looking for work, if you like 2D effects, I can assure you you can find work quite easily because there's a very fewer 2D effects animators than there are character animators, and there's a real lack of 2D effects animator, I
mhm.
guess.
Yeah, it's something that like I've always just avoided effects. So that's how I deal with it.
Well,
Um,
it's natural. Like it's whenever people start drawing, they don't start drawing like soup. They start drawing a face, a character. This is how everyone started drawing. Or eventually, some people do start with plants, stuff like that. But FX is typically the thing that's consistently moving, like always moving, and
yeah.
doesn't really have a, an exact shape. So
Mhm.
nobody starts working like drawing with effects. So
Yeah.
nobody will instinctively start with effects animation.
There's a couple questions talking about do animators have free time outside of work? Um, basically, like,
Do
do you spend time on entertainment or
oh
like other
me
things? Yeah, I guess it's
me
directed at both of
oh
us.
uh for for me I only do my job and I don't do anything animation related outside of it, but I do look a lot at animation, look for references. I'm always
I think
like
I think they mean like
informing myself about animation, but not drawing.
I think they mean like leisure time. Like, do you have leisure
Yeah,
time?
I do have leisure time. My leisure time is not big for sure. It depends. In France, we have like 7 hours work days sometime. This would give a lot of leisure time, but
Yeah.
usually I'm more around 10 hours per day, and sometimes up to 14, but that's rare. So that doesn't leave that much leisure time. But that leisure time usually goes to looking at more animation, looking at more
Mm-hmm.
references, discussing with other animators, and eventually video games.
Yeah. Oh yeah, video games are always something that I end up on
Yes.
sometimes, like Monster Hunter. I
Yes.
remember playing that a lot.
Yes.
um, I still find time to like go on hikes and play video games and watch TV and stuff. So and
That's more healthy.
I even sometimes will go to parties. So I, it
Oh,
sounds like I work all
social
the time, which
life.
I do work all the time, but you know, there's still time to if you can make time. Like you'll lose a lot of time by like you can cut out some things like if you have like a Facebook account, that's something you can easily cut out. A lot of people waste too much time on that scrolling. That'd save you like a couple hours each day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think it's very possible, even for workaholics like what most animators are is workaholics. But I think
Yep.
there's still time to like do stuff that's fun, and I think it's
Mm-hmm.
important to actually do stuff that's not work.
Yes. Um, it's important for your own health, like both mental and physical health, but also for the quality of your work. Like you need to step out of your cut to notice later what was
Yeah.
wrong, what was fundamentally wrong. I mean, there's some simple and easy mistakes you will see anyway, but the very like the deeper mistakes, these you usually don't see when you head through your work and you're just too focused on it, or you've been working on it for 4 days or maybe a month already. You can't you don't have a choice but to step out for a while and come back to it later to notice what was like wrong on a bigger scale on your
Mm-hmm.
work.
Yeah, there was something I remember that I learned like even in like my high school art classes where they would just tell you to get up and then just stand on the other side of the room and look at your art from far away. It's
Yes, it
kind of
also helps.
the same principle. It's like just if you just get up
Yes.
and come back, you're gonna look at it and be like, wow, that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If you stare at it
Mm-hmm.
too long, uh,
Yes.
you'll be blind to what's right in front of you.
Yes.
Will Singh, please get Dong Chang on the podcast. If anyone knows how to contact Dong Chang, I would love to have him on the podcast.
Hmm.
Um, he's got really good. If you guys haven't seen his videos, he's got really good videos on writing X sheets for Japanese productions.
Wait, me or the chat?
Dong Chang does, yeah.
Ah, yes.
Um, all right. So I think that's a good stopping point. Um,
Okay.
thanks, Orange, for coming on. And thanks, everyone, for coming to watch. Uh,
Yes. It was my pleasure. Hope we could answer your questions. And yeah, hope that was interesting.
yeah, for those of you that are new here, we do the podcast once a week with a new guest every time. Um, and also, later today on Sakuga Foundry, we're doing a live screening of Digimon episode 54, and we have a really special guest coming in for the Q&A section. It's actually the director of the episode, uh,
Nice.
Nozomu Shishido. So that'll be really cool. So if you guys want to come to that, just hop in the Sakuga Foundry Discord later today.